Real native, never been a fake. Hey, what's up, guys? I just want to talk to you guys about the curses of Deuteronomy and how they relate to Native American tribes. I want to tell you from my perspective, and also growing up and meeting all different tribes across the Americas. But I want to show you guys historically and also even to this day how these curses are still in effect because we did not follow the Most High. And just for clarification, I'm not part of any camp. I'm out here on my own, you know, working, serving the Most High in whatever way He wants me to. And I'm a part of no organization at all. I come to the truth and learning the scriptures all throughout my lifetime. So the very first curse that He gives is, "Cursed shall you be in the city." And I've experienced and seen natives in the city, and a lot of times downtown, you'll see a lot of stereotypical drunks. I've known people growing up here on the res who would go to the city or the border towns because alcohol is not legal on the res, which makes it more enticing.
Every one of my kids are, drinking. That's how two of my boys are in jail, and then I have one daughter that drinks a lot too. She's the one that left her kids with me because she drinks too much.
1 in 4 children born on Pine Ridge has fetal alcohol syndrome. The newly built local jail here runs near capacity all the time.
And cursed you shall be in the field. I grew up on Navajo Nation, and there's so many towns with names like mini farms, cornfields, wheat fields. But to this day, we must have had, an industry back then. But to this day, I rarely see, some cornfields. Our fields, I've never seen them really produce abundantly in my lifetime, to be honest, but they might have before.
We're looking at this particular water source where it dried up, and the livestock, they died of thirst, and the equipment's not functioning. And we've been in drought for quite some time, and our forage is really decreased.
Verse 17, "And cursed shall be your basket and your store." I thought it was interesting because, in the book of Proverbs, it talks about the spindle, and native culture, we use the spindle, and the basket, obviously, everyone used the basket, but I just think it's interesting. Even the jingle dress in Deuteronomy, "Cursed shall be the fruit of your body." I think this applies to the inability of our tribes to stay in existence because of genocide. Also, a lot of tribes have become extinct.
Which tribe is the oldest? None of these early tribes still exists.
Again, it says, "Cursed be the fruit of your land and the increase of your kind." And if you see here, there was mass genocide, slaughter of natives here. We were all the chiefs were killed off. It's written in the books.
None of these early tribes still exists.
"And cursed shall be the flocks of your sheep." This one's interesting because in the 1930s, the United States passed the Livestock Reduction Act, which greatly reduced the amount of sheep on the Navajo Nation. And the justification was that they were overgrazing. But what I've come to learn from people here is that this was in fact a lie. "And Yah shall send upon you cursing, vexation, and rebuke in all that you do." And if you look at it, we are cursed, vexed, and rebuked in society and mainstream culture.
Indians run their dot-gum, dot-blasted sheep over our land just like they owned it.
Why don't they stay on the reservations where they belong?
And also, it says, "Until you perish quickly because of your wickedness." And if a lot of you guys don't know, there's a lot of spiritual wickedness that happens as far as cursing, skinwalkers, just general distaste and jealousy for your own kind and your own brothers, just like in the Testament, the 12 patriarchs. Go check that out and read the Testament guide.
The Navajo saw skinwalkers as powerful witches or corrupt medicine men who had obtained the highest level of priesthood, but instead they choose to use these supernatural abilities to inflict harm and suffering on others. The fear of repercussion coupled with a distrust of outsiders are two fairly compelling reasons why skinwalkers aren't openly talked about. There is also the belief that skinwalkers only share their practices with their own kind, which only adds to the mystery surrounding them. This also means it's unlikely that the Navajo know who among them is actually a skinwalker as they transform under the cover of night.
In verse 21, Yah is talking about how we will be consumed from the land wherever we go to possess it. And if you look here in 1829, Andrew Jackson signed the Indian Removal Act, which removed a lot of the tribes from their original homelands who have Hebrew roots. And this has also happened in the Trail of Tears and the Long Walk, and for so many tribes. This is a picture of an individual standing by a huge stack of bison skulls that were slaughtered from the northern tribes in the Americas. Verse 31 says, "Your ox shall be slain before your eyes, and you shall not eat thereof. Thine ass shall be taken away from before your face, and shall not be restored to you." And as mentioned earlier in the Livestock Reduction Act, your sheep shall be given unto your enemies, and there shall be no one to rescue them.
And that was a forced livestock reduction. And when they confiscated the sheep and what the Diné would not give up, they shot them and killed them, laid the livestock out and just let them rot in the sun. And it was a heartbreaking experience. It was one of the very greatest injustice that the Diné believed that the government did to them. And it was much like the Plains people when the buffaloes were almost killed into extinction. But the Diné, their economy has always been for many generations that have taken care of the livestock.
And Yah shall smite you with a consumption and with a fever. And if you guys don't know, we were basically killed off with smallpox and diseases and fevers that we had not known before that were brought over. I mean, they gave us disease blankets as a form of warfare. You will be overcome with the sword, Yah says, and with a blast. This one was interesting because a blast, the blasting, is like the rifles, you know. I believe the Most High gave them the technology and the understanding to pursue us through the use of weapon warfare that we had not had prior.
I grew up at a time when John Ford and John Wayne and Randolph Scott et al. Were massacring Indians with single shots.
Turn around, Dirt.
Yeah, that was in the late 40s.
And the heavens above you shall be made to be brass. This is one of the plants on the Navajo Nation. I'm just showing how the areas in our land has become desolate. The next curse is that the earth under you shall be iron. And on the Navajo Nation, there's a lot of coal mining. And it may or may not be related, but coal and charcoal is used to make iron. And the verse is talking about brass skies and iron ground is basically just saying that Yah shall make your land infertile. And Yah shall make the rain of your land powder and dust. And here on the res, there's been a drought for so long, man. So dry, even Lake Powell is completely drying out. The Navajo Nation, if you look on Google Maps, it's dry. Everywhere around it is green. I mean, some tribes have inherited very nice land, but most reservations, though, deal with droughts and water issues.
A state of emergency declaration over the ongoing drought on the Navajo Nation. Despite all this rain, is staying in place. The tribe's Commission on Emergency Management.
The drought that we have makes it difficult for us as a sheep herder.
The biggest challenge is finding water for our livestock right now. That's a tradition of being a Navajo, that you have animals.
Sheep herding is vanishing in our area.
We're only the last few shepherds out here.
There used to be water running out of the ground. We used to take our sheep there to drink water. And now, today, we have to haul water for them. There's no longer water in these earthen dams. They're all dry.
Verse 25, Yah shall cause you to be smitten before your enemies. And everyone knows about the genocide, the Thanksgiving genocides. You shall go out one way against them, and you shall flee before them 7 different ways. One of the ways we flee is through the breaking of treaties, because the United States government, if you guys look up, just look it up, they've broken every treaty they've signed with Native nations. So we're losing battles, we're losing legal wars, we're fleeing before the United States government in many different ways.
Basically, every single treaty broken. I mean, was there a single treaty the United States had with the Indians that it didn't break? That's insane. I mean, every single one.
And Yah shall smite you with madness and blindness and astonishment of heart. And I believe this is in reference to the generational trauma and anger that we are born with as Israelites. We are born with a distaste for the outside world and a madness and astonishment of heart, and also a blindness to understand who we really are. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and your eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all day long, and there shall be no might in your hand. This happened in boarding schools. They took the kids, the native kids, and they caused us to be blind. They took our culture, our history, and they shoved religion down our throat, using the very scriptures that speaks of our own people, further psychologically manipulating us.
For more than 150 years, the U.S. government sought to forcibly assimilate Native American children as the country expanded into their land. Hundreds of government-funded boarding schools were set up all over the country. There, tribes were separated, Native American traditions were erased, and survivors of those schools say they were physically, emotionally, and sexually abused.
Every time they beat me up, it got harder and harder to learn. She would grab me by my hair and use me for an eraser, drag me back and forth across the blackboard, until she erased the numbers.
Getting locked in a freezing closet, the racist remarks. A nun once forced him to eat vomit in front of his brother.
That was 57 years ago. And I can remember the expressions, his tone, and how small I felt.
And the fruit of your land and all your labors shall a nation you know it's not eat it up. And I believe there's so many examples of this. We taught colonizers how to live and plant here, and they ate it up, and they killed us. The Navajo code talkers. We served this nation in the war and won the war through the use of ancient Hebrew language that no one knew. But yet, we are not revered. And you shall be only oppressed and crushed always. So if you guys don't know, check out some stuff going on right now with natives, man, like the North Dakota Access Pipeline, missing and murdered indigenous women. I believe percentage-wise, native men, percentage-wise, not overall numbers, are attacked the most by police.
Happening here is illegal. This is a militarized police force up against an unarmed, peaceful prayer for people.
So I was out there, one of the first ones in the water. Maced us. It hurts. It hurts.
The government oppresses native tribes all the time. Now, guys, remember, this is only a very brief overlook of the curses. It's not very in-depth, but I will be uploading part 2 to finish off Deuteronomy 28 and the curses and how they relate. So if you made it this far in the video, make sure you subscribe and share. I also want to point out that there's definitely a way out of these, and I think it is the acknowledgement and understanding of this history and information that we as tribal ancient Israelites can once again retain the blessing of the Most High Great Spirit, the great mystery.
The beings that are in charge or the forces that created the earth, you can call it the great creator, you can call it energy, you can call it light source. But if you look at, for example, in the Zuni mythology and the creation myth, it was a light source that came, and the only reason that we know about, he had emissaries that took, well, maybe they did all the menial labor, so to speak.
The last point I'd like to make is a point my father brought up about the possibility of the conquerors writing their plans against us in the book in a form of control. And whether or not this is true, the text and the things happening remain true. And it's a good thing to think about so that you know how to counteract and to research so that you know how to counteract arguments, or you know how to even just find the truth. Be comfortable being uncomfortable.
YAHWEH.